Welcome to the last reading on periods 2 and 3 for us, where we're talking about the culture of the American colonies and the British colonies leading up to the election of 1800. We are currently in the 13 colonies, and we're asking ourselves this question: what does it mean to be an American by 1800? And it's a very loaded question because there's so much that happens in period 2 and 3, and we need to address all of it. So let's start at the beginning. English colonies. If you remember, there were 3 distinct colonial regions. They were all founded for different purposes, and they all flourished and had different types of economies, and it made them unique, distinct regions. Jamestown in Virginia flourished as an agricultural colony, eventually as a plantation society that utilized African slaves to primarily grow the crop of tobacco. One of the first colonies, the first colony to introduce representative government, which was a British idea that was brought over to the colonies. In 1620, the Pilgrims landed Plymouth. They create their own self-government with the Mayflower Compact. They're seeking religious freedom. But due to the climate, they can't have these large plantations like there were in Virginia. So they create a society based on trade and subsistence farming. And they create networks that are dependent on manufactured goods being sent from England to help basically their colony thrive. And then you had the middle colonies, founded by originally Quakers in Pennsylvania, but also you had the British who defeated the Dutch in New York, changing it from New Amsterdam to New York. You had proprietary colonies, land that was given to wealthy British families to settle in the Americas. They had a distinct mixed economy, a mixture of grains that would be sold to both the North and the South, giving them the nickname of the breadbasket colonies. However, the one thing that all 3 colonial regions had in common is that they didn't see themselves as Americans. They saw themselves as British, and they were British colonies. And what that ended up doing is that allowed for the Anglicization of the colonies. They brought the English traditions over to North America, and it became a major defining part of the British colonies, and it will have tremendous impact into the United States as well. Some of those British ideas that were brought over were Enlightenment philosophies, things like natural rights that were brought over from John Locke's writing, his 2 treatises of government. You have economic philosophy, okay, that is brought over, which will eventually help formulate our free enterprise system after the Revolution. You have ideas of using logic to solve problems that will be later applied to government. For example, Benjamin Franklin is an Enlightenment thinker. He was a scientist who looked around at the world and he made observations and used his logic to solve problems. These ideas would later be applied to politics, where guys like Thomas Paine would take Enlightenment ideas and logic to prove that we should be breaking away from England and be an independent country. He focuses, and one of his arguments that he uses to prove that the United States should exist separate from England is, he says, just look around you in nature. Everywhere in nature, the smaller object does not rule the greater object. The earth doesn't revolve around the moon. It's the other way around. Therefore, 'tis time to part. And that has a tremendous impact on culture. But also, American culture is rooted in why did people come here? And a large part of that story is the Puritans and the Pilgrims and William Penn and Catholics in Maryland, people who came here for religious freedom. And at the same time that on one hand you have the Enlightenment, you also have the Great Awakening, where people in large numbers go back to church and they start affiliating Christianity with American ideals. And you see a large number of religious schools that are established. You see the growth of American denominations, the Methodist Church, the Baptist Church. They grow in great numbers as churches are built in rural communities. And so America is kind of caught between these ideas at that time of Enlightenment philosophy and our religious interpretations of the Bible. And so both of those are woven into the arguments that help create the country. So the United States is created, and all of a sudden, we have to figure out, what does it mean to be an American? And it's a very difficult question for us, because each of the colonies saw themselves as 13 distinct personalities. And trying to find out what we all had in common was very difficult. And this was something that was addressed by James Madison in Federalist number 10, one of the Federalist Papers, where he said, he spoke to fears of anti-federalists, that the government's going to take away all your individuality. And he made the argument that no, this is a happy combination. We're going to help each other by all having different opinions. That's going to make sure that one person can't dominate all of us. It's our individuality that unites us. And that's where we have this saying, e pluribus unum. Out of many comes one. So what is the American ideal? What does it mean to be American in 1800? They're still figuring it out. And that's why the election of 1800 is so important, because that allows for the peaceful transition of power from one political party to the other, and we don't devolve into revolution.